8. Edward 1936. In the annals of British monarchy, the year 1936 holds a unique and controversial place. It marked the brief but tumultuous reign of King Edward VIII, whose rule was characterized by a whirlwind of personal choices and political upheaval. Edward VIII, born Edward Albert Christian George Andrew Patrick David, was the eldest son of King George V and Queen Mary. His ascension to the throne in January 1936 was met with a sense of optimism and expectation as he succeeded his father. King Edward VIII's reign, however, was cut short and overshadowed by his decision to marry Wallace Simpson, an American socialite and divorcee. This choice triggered the infamous Abdication Crisis, a defining moment in British history. While Edward VIII's reign lasted only 326 days, his actions during this period had profound and lasting repercussions for the British monarchy, politics, and public perception. The Abdication Crisis of 1936 was a watershed moment that shook the very foundations of the British monarchy. It was a crisis that revealed the tension between personal desires and the responsibilities of a constitutional monarch. Edward's determination to marry Wallace Simpson, a twice-divorced American woman, brought into sharp focus the conflict between his private life and his public role. This crisis had far-reaching consequences, not only for Edward VIII but also for the monarchy itself. It raised questions about the monarchy's relevance in the modern age, its relationship with the government and the Church of England, and the limits of royal power. The abdication set a precedent for future monarchs, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the monarchy's reputation and public image. Edward VIII, originally named Edward Albert Christian George Andrew Patrick David, was born on June 23, 1894. He was the eldest son of King George V and Queen Mary and the oldest of their 6 children. The House of Windsor, the current royal house of the United Kingdom, was established during his father's reign to replace the German-sounding House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha due to anti-German sentiment during World War I. Edward's birth marked the continuation of the royal line. Edward was born during a time of great change in Europe. With tensions leading up to World War I, his family's lineage was deeply rooted in European royal connections, as he was related to several other European monarchies, including those of Germany and Russia. Edward's upbringing was traditional for a royal heir of his time. He was educated by private tutors and attended naval colleges, including the Royal Naval College at Osborne and the Royal Naval College at Dartmouth. His naval education was part of a long-standing tradition in the British royal family, and it instilled a sense of duty and discipline in the young prince. He was also exposed to various aspects of statecraft, international affairs, and military matters as part of his education, preparing him for his future role as king. However, his father, King George V, had concerns about Edward's maturity and readiness for the throne, which would later become a significant factor in his reign. The unexpected ascension of Edward VIII to the throne in January 1936 came as a result of the death of his father. King George V. Edward, at the age of 41, was thrust into the role of king, making him one of the oldest heirs to assume the throne in British history. His reign began on January 20, 1936, with the official proclamation of his accession. This sudden transition presented challenges not only for Edward personally but also for the British monarchy and government. His unanticipated accession would set in motion a chain of events that would eventually lead to the Abdication Crisis. When Edward VIII ascended to the throne, there was a sense of hope and excitement among the British public. He was a charismatic figure known for his charm and good looks, and many people had high expectations for his reign. His initial popularity was bolstered by his interest in social issues and his involvement in charitable work. The British people anticipated a new era under their king, who appeared more in touch with contemporary concerns than his predecessors. However, the public's enthusiasm would be short-lived as Edward's personal choices and the unfolding drama surrounding his relationship with Wallace Simpson would soon overshadow his popularity and dramatically alter the course of his reign. Wallace Simpson, an American socialite born Bessie Wallace Warfield on June 19, 1896, in Blue Ridge Summit, Pennsylvania, would become one of the most infamous figures in British royal history. She was initially married to a U.S. Navy pilot, Earl Winfield Spencer Jr., in 1916, but their marriage ended in divorce in 1927. After her divorce, Wallis Simpson gained a reputation in high society circles for her style, wit, and charm. It was in the early 1930s that Wallis Simpson crossed paths with King Edward VIII, who was then the Prince of Wales. The introduction marked the beginning of a relationship that would soon captivate the world and change the course of British history. Edward's relationship with Wallis Simpson was highly controversial from the start. At the time, it was not uncommon for members of the British aristocracy to have extramarital affairs, but the Prince of Wales being involved with a twice-divorced American woman was a different matter altogether. The relationship was marked by scandal and secrecy. Edward and Wallace went to great lengths to keep their romance out of the public eye, but rumors and speculation persisted. Their relationship was seen as deeply incompatible with Edward's royal role and responsibilities. As the future king, he was expected to marry a suitable royal or aristocratic bride, and his relationship with Wallis Simpson was a clear departure from tradition. As news of Edward's relationship with Wallis Simpson began to surface in the media, it sparked public interest and concern. The British public, who had initially welcomed Edward as their king with enthusiasm, grew increasingly wary of his choice of partner. There were concerns about the impact of the relationship on the monarchy's reputation and stability. Politically, the British government under Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin was also alarmed. Baldwin and his cabinet were aware of the constitutional and legal challenges posed by Edward's relationship with a divorced woman. Additionally, they feared that Wallis's marital history and unconventional background would make her an unpopular queen and potentially destabilize the monarchy. Despite the mounting pressure from the public, political leaders, and even his own family to end the relationship with Wallis Simpson, Edward VIII remained resolute in his determination to marry her. His love for Wallis was genuine, and he believed he could continue as king and marry her, even if it required making unprecedented constitutional changes. Edward explored various options to enable their marriage, including a morganatic marriage, where Wallis would not become queen, and renouncing the throne in favor of his younger brother, Albert, who would become King George VI. His unwavering commitment to Wallis would ultimately lead to the Abdication Crisis of 1936, as he faced the painful choice between love and duty. Edward VIII's relationship with Wallis Simpson had profound implications for the British government and the constitutional framework. As a constitutional monarch, the king's role was largely ceremonial, with actual political power resting with elected officials. However, his actions and decisions still held significant symbolic and moral authority. The government was deeply concerned about the impact of Edward's relationship on the monarchy's reputation and stability. The idea of a twice-divorced American woman becoming queen was seen as scandalous and contrary to the values and traditions of the British monarchy. The government feared that public support for the monarchy would diminish, and there was a risk of constitutional crisis. The question of public opinion was a central concern in the crisis. The British monarchy relies heavily on public support and perception, and Edward's relationship with Wallis Simpson was increasingly at odds with the values and sensibilities of the British people. The role of the Church of England, as the established church in Britain, was also significant. The church held a moral authority over matters of marriage and divorce, and its teachings were closely followed by a significant portion of the population. The church's strong opposition to the marriage further complicated Edward's quest to marry Wallis. On December 11, 1936, King Edward VIII delivered a historic radio broadcast that would forever be remembered as one of the most significant moments in British royal history. In the broadcast, he spoke directly to the nation and the world, addressing the tumultuous situation regarding his relationship with Wallis Simpson and its impact on his reign. The broadcast was candid and emotional. Edward expressed his deep love for Wallis and acknowledged the challenges his relationship posed to his royal duties. He famously stated, "I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do without the help and support of the woman I love." The radio broadcast marked the first time a reigning British monarch had directly addressed the public in such a personal and introspective manner. It had a profound impact on public sentiment and set the stage for his momentous decision. King Edward VIII's radio broadcast was a prelude to his historic decision to abdicate the throne. In his speech, he made it clear that he could not continue as king without Wallis Simpson by his side. He faced a heart-wrenching choice between love and duty, and ultimately, he chose love. On December 10, 1936, Edward signed the Instrument of Abdication, a formal legal document that renounced his claim to the throne. This act marked the first voluntary abdication by a British monarch in over 2 centuries. His decision sent shockwaves through the nation and the British Empire, as well as reverberations across the world. The formal abdication process was a meticulously orchestrated affair, involving legal and constitutional steps to ensure a smooth transition of power. After Edward signed the Instrument of Abdication, it was ratified by Parliament through the His Majesty's Declaration of Abdication Act 1936. The act received royal assent on December 11, 1936, the same day as Edward's historic broadcast. With the legal and parliamentary processes completed, the throne passed to Edward's younger brother, Prince Albert, Duke of York, who would become King George VI. George VI's wife, Queen Elizabeth, later known as the Queen Mother, played a pivotal role in supporting him during the challenging transition. The abdication of King Edward VIII triggered a wide range of reactions from the British people and the global community. Mixed reactions. Public sentiment was divided. While some sympathized with Edward's personal struggles and respected his decision to follow his heart, others were deeply disappointed and felt betrayed by his abandonment of the throne. Media frenzy. The Abdication Crisis was a media sensation, with newspapers around the world covering the story extensively. It marked a turning point in the role of the media in shaping public perception of the monarchy and royal affairs. Impact on the British Empire. The crisis had a profound impact on the British Empire, with some dominions expressing reluctance to accept Edward as their king due to his controversial relationship with Wallace Simpson. It raised questions about the future of the monarchy within the Commonwealth. Legacy. Edward's abdication left a lasting legacy on the British monarchy, emphasizing the importance of maintaining public support and adhering to constitutional norms. His younger brother, King George VI, faced the daunting task of rebuilding the monarchy's image and stability in the wake of the crisis. After his abdication, King Edward VIII adopted the title of Duke of Windsor. He chose this title to reflect the Windsor family name, which had been adopted by his father, King George V, during World War I. This name change was significant, as it severed the connection with the German-sounding House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. As the Duke of Windsor, Edward lived a life quite different from his royal past. He and Wallis Simpson settled in France, primarily residing in Paris. Despite being stripped of his royal status, Edward continued to be a public figure and attracted significant attention from the media and society. The Duke and Duchess of Windsor's life in exile in France was marked by both luxury and controversy. They lived a jet-set lifestyle, surrounded by high society and famous friends. However, they were also met with skepticism and criticism, both in Britain and abroad. Their exile was, in part, due to the British government's wish to keep Edward away from the UK to minimize any potential political influence or embarrassment. This exile further fueled the intrigue surrounding the couple, as they lived a life of glamour and opulence while remaining distant from the royal family and the British public. Public opinion on the abdication and the subsequent reign of George VI was mixed. While some segments of the population sympathized with Edward's desire to marry for love, others believed that he had shirked his responsibilities as king. Many were uncertain about the future of the monarchy and whether George VI could successfully navigate the challenges ahead. George VI and Queen Elizabeth, later known as the Queen Mother, worked tirelessly to restore public faith in the monarchy. Their dedication and conscientious approach endeared them to the British people, and over time, George VI's reign became associated with resilience, duty, and moral leadership. The couple played a vital role in rebuilding the monarchy's image and regaining public trust. The abdication crisis of 1936 left a profound and enduring impact on the British monarchy and the nation as a whole. It served as a watershed moment in royal history, emphasizing the need for a monarch to navigate a delicate balance between personal desires and the responsibilities of a constitutional ruler. This crisis brought to the forefront the importance of public opinion, constitutional norms, and the role of the media in shaping perceptions of the monarchy. The crisis underscored the enduring influence of the Church of England in matters of royal marriage and morality, and it set a precedent for future monarchs in terms of adherence to traditional values and expectations. King Edward VIII's historical significance in 1936 lies in his unique role as a monarch who voluntarily relinquished the throne in pursuit of love. His abdication, while deeply personal, had far-reaching consequences that extended beyond his own life and reign. It challenged the monarchy's traditional norms and tested the boundaries of royal power within a constitutional framework. Edward's story serves as a reminder of the complexities and limitations faced by modern monarchs, who must balance their personal lives with their public roles. It also highlights the enduring fascination with the British royal family and the power of love in the face of duty. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.